Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Capitol Hill Day webinar. Just going to let some people come in and then we'll get started. Hi, guys. Welcome to today's webinar. Let's give it another minute or so for people to come in and we will get started. All right, it looks like we've got a drop off here. So we will go ahead and get started. So welcome to today's webinar. My name is Keena Minifield. I'm the Policy and Program Coordinator here at the Housing Alliance. And the Housing Alliance of Pennsylvania is a statewide coalition working to increase access to safe, decent, and affordable homes for all Pennsylvanians. We work to fulfill our vision for a home within reach through state, federal policy advocacy, opportunities to connect, share, and learn from your peers, as well as events in our annual Homes Within Reach conference. If you aren't a member, we ask that you consider joining. You can visit our website to join as a member, or you can contact info@housingalliancepa.org for more information on membership. Today's webinar will run approximately 60 minutes, including questions and answers. If you want to ask the presenters a question, please use the Q&A function. The chat function is only to ask the Housing Alliance logistical questions about the webinar. Again, use the Q&A feature for questions to the presenters. We will email you a recording of this presentation and any associated materials in approximately a week's time. Some upcoming events that we have. We have a planning meeting to prepare for Capitol Hill Day, March 21st at 4 p.m. And then we have our virtual Capitol Hill Day coming up on March 24th. So be sure to mark your calendars if you plan to join us. Registration is now open and closes next Friday, March 18th at 4 p.m. And you can visit our events page to register. So we hope to see you there. And also, save the date for our 18th annual Homes Within Reach conference happening December 7th through the 9th in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This year's theme is a stronger, more equitable tomorrow. The RFP for workshops was released this past Monday, and we look forward to your proposals. And in case you missed it, some resources and reports. We have a few resources you can check out regarding our policy priorities for Capitol Hill Day. You can take a look at a blog post on our website by Emily Caddick, the Executive Director of the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Coalition, and where she talks about the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Improvement Act. And you could also check out our summary on the eviction crisis by visiting our website. And also to learn more about our 2022 policy agenda and what we have accomplished in 2021, please visit our website. I will now turn it over to Gail to start today's webinar.
Hi, everyone. Keena, can you stop sharing your screen? So I'm Gail Schwartz, the Associate Director of Policy and Programs here at the Housing Alliance. And I'm going to share my screen real quick. And I am joined by Keena, who you've already met, as well as Erin Zappia, the Senior Government Relations Manager, and Hidar Rem, who is the Housing Policy and Research Associate. And so we are your Capitol Hill Day support team. So to get you ready for the event, let's go over our agenda. So, it's pretty exciting. We have over 100 people registered for Capitol Hill Day this year, our third virtual Capitol Hill Day. So we're very excited. But we'll be talking about why this is so important, what's going to be happening before, what will happen on the day of, and then, what do we need to do afterwards? And of course, we will round out today's conversation with next steps and of course, question and answer. So why Capitol Hill Day? Because increasing federal resources will benefit communities and people. We do need a full investment from the federal government for housing, homelessness, and community development programs, and to really help lay the foundation to maximize all of the great work that happens at the state and local levels. And we also know, because advocacy works when it's done right. I like to think we do it pretty good here at the Housing Alliance. But before we get into the details of Capitol Hill Day, we do have some important policy conversation to have. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Aaron.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gail. Aaron Zappia here, Senior Government Relations Manager for the Housing Alliance. If anybody's been following the news today, it's been a pretty interesting day on Capitol Hill. The House was ready to vote on a spending bill, which was released very early this morning. And as of right before this call, it appears as that's kind of going off the rails, possibly. It did seem like there was bipartisan support. They had a lot in there for Ukraine that was very important. But housing was going to get a $4 billion increase. And here on this slide, you can see a list of items that were all getting a little bit of a bump. And maybe most significantly, we have a $280 million increase for 32,800 new housing vouchers, an 11% increase for affordable housing production through the home program, a 6.6 increase for homeless assistance grants. And that's still all on the table, but this process may be delayed even further unless something is literally changing at the moment. So I encourage everybody to tune in, to stay abreast of what's going on with the spending bill. Every indication is that once the House passes it, the Senate's going to act as quickly as they can. But they're probably also going to pass a continuing resolution in case the Senate can't get to it by Friday. So that's a little bit of an update on the budget. And some of these items we very well may be discussing on Capitol Hill Day with members. We're just going to see how this plays out this week and next week. So with that, let's move on to the next slide if we can. Okay, so some policy priorities. Build Back Better was, the great hope, right? There was some wonderful things in there, some historic provisions, and it's of course fallen apart. And I don't think I have to go and rehash that whole story, but they're really getting away from calling it Build Back Better. And we have strong indication that by summer there's going to be a bicameral deal on a new version of the reconciliation bill for Build Back Better. The original version of this bill had $170 billion for housing, and we were talking about $65 billion for preservation and for building. We had $25 billion for rental assistance, $24 billion for housing choice vouchers. who knows what they're going to land on, in the end. But I think basically we have to ask for the highest levels of funding, right? The highest levels of funding for whatever this reconciliation bill ends up being. And because this stuff changes day by day, we may have more specific items, the week of Capitol Hill Day, and we'll keep everybody updated on that. But, it's just some other legislative priorities that we want to, to kind of, raise the priority of, amongst our delegation. We have the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Improvement Act. That's going to raise the house tax, the housing credit by 50% over the next 5 years. That's been a great program. It's been around for 30 years. I'm sure everybody's very familiar with it. It's financed nearly 3.5 million apartments nationwide. And it's provided approximately 8 million low-income families, seniors, veterans, folks with disabilities for a home they can afford. The Eviction Crisis Act. This bill we like a lot. This bill would basically make ERAP permanent, not using the same exact, ERAP as it's known today, but providing rental assistance for folks in need, crisis assistance, short-term funding, just as ERAP does, but making it permanent. Some other important provisions of that: it funds mediation programs in the courts to help avoid evictions. There's funding in there for state and local governments to do that. And we've been really big on mediation throughout the pandemic. While evictions are trending in a positive direction in Pennsylvania, 70% of very low income renters are severely cost burdened. That's at the moment, and that's getting worse. So, a program like this, we want to make sure that there's funding, emergency funding available for these folks, because there is one tragedy away from not being able to pay rent. So those are the policy priorities at the moment. And again, slight changes could be on the way, but these are things you want to keep in mind right now. So we can go to the next slide. So messaging framework, this is talking about how you want to approach members, and how you want to talk to members. So staying solution focused. We don't want to talk a lot about, things that are negative. I mean, yeah, we're addressing problems, we're addressing crises, but you want to stay focused on what's going well. The success of programs, the good work that you're doing, the success that you're seeing, and talk about all of these things from the positive angle, right? Know your representatives and their key concerns, and thank them for their support on key issues. So depending on who you're talking to, I mean, some members of the Pennsylvania delegation are great on housing issues. They're highly supportive of housing. Some, not so much. So before these meetings take place, we're going to make sure that you have all the information that you need, and you'll know what to thank these members for, what they've done that you should know about. Legislators always like being thanked for things that they do. Keep focused on how federal programs will help Pennsylvania. So stories of real people in the district. And really, I think what this comes down to is we're not expecting anybody to be policy experts, but what you are an expert in is telling the story of the work that you're doing. Legislators like to hear stories. How are these federal programs affecting people on the ground, right? I mean, what is, these folks spend a lot of time thinking about dollars and cents and policy, and they're being advised by staff members. But this is their chance to hear about practitioners, right? People who are doing the work and have experience with these folks that these programs are helping. So tell a story. Tell them about, a compelling story. Messaging focused beyond the pandemic, while acknowledging the long-term consequences of the pandemic. We would kind of relate everything, to COVID, right? And COVID has made everything twice as bad. But we've had a lot of housing difficulties before COVID, and we're going to still, it's going to continue on. So we want to focus on what's going to make the Commonwealth stronger and what's going to improve housing in our Commonwealth beyond COVID. Okay, so with that, I think we can move on to the next slide.
Great, thank you, Erin. And next we have Hadar to talk about everything the Housing Alliance is doing behind the scenes leading up to the day.
Thanks, Gail. All right, so now that you've heard the policy priorities and our messaging framework, let's review what will be happening leading up to Capitol Hill Day. So we at the Housing Alliance are currently scheduling appointments with representatives. We're preparing packets for those meetings and organizing teams based on your congressional districts. On Monday, March 21st, we are going to have planning meetings where we will be reviewing the policy priorities again. We'll be going over the schedule of the day on Capitol Hill Day and how to have an effective legislative visit with your representative, as well as individualized plans for each district meeting. So what's in the actual packet that we'll be providing you? We're going to have the legislative meeting guide with talking points and the policy priorities that we reviewed earlier, as well as fact sheets about those policy priorities and county and state fact sheets, and then the schedule of the day. But what you can bring to the table to these meetings is any information about your particular programs or needs that are specific to your communities. So as of right now, we have scheduled 2 meetings. One is with Congressman Evans at 9:30 a.m. He will be in attendance for that meeting. The next one is with Congressman Smucker at 11 a.m., but we are still continuing to schedule meetings, so please keep an eye out for those invites.
Great, thank you so much, Hadar. And next we have Kina to give us the rundown on how you can prepare and how to have a great meeting.
Thank you, Gail. So what you can do to prepare for Capitol Hill Day, if you haven't had joined us for Capitol Hill Day before, or you may even be a pro and have joined us for years for Capitol Hill Day, but you should have a few sentences prepared on how housing resources are implemented in your community. You can, some questions that you can think of while you're brainstorming, about what you're going to say are, how do you use, federal housing or homeless assistance funding in your community? Like what are some services or resources that you have, been able to provide to members of your community? And another one is, what would you do with more resources like the low income housing tax credit? And I think that's a pretty popular question that people like to answer, because there's so much that needs to be done still. And, so having, that prepared, that answer prepared for that question, would be helpful. And, this last point is extremely important. You do not need to be an expert on tax credit or any other policies. Just like Erin said, talk about something you do know, which is, your experience, what you're seeing in your community, regarding housing resources. Next slide. And now I'm going to tell you how to have an effective legislative visit with us. So the team leader, which is a staff member, it'll be one of us here at the Housing Alliance that will be the team leader. We'll open the meeting with, the reason that we're visiting their office for Capitol Hill Day. And then everybody will go around and introduce themselves and, who you are and, and why you are at the meeting for Capitol Hill Day. The team leader, Housing Alliance staff, tells the staff or legislator what the group is asking for, what we would like the legislator to, support or do in, their district or the state. And then we'll hold a conversation around these issues, which is where you all will come in and, explain, why we're like your story, your experience. So that's when that will come in. And then the team leader closes the meeting and restates the ask of, the group, which is all of us, and, thanks to staff and legislator for their time and support. So that is kind of the rundown of the day.
Thank you. Sorry, it took me a second to find my unmute button. So, the next steps really are for all of you on the call here today and who are signing up for Capitol Hill Day is prepare your story. Just jot down a few lines, kind of organize your thoughts and, let us know how housing has been foundational for you. We know that it is foundational for all of us, no matter where we are in our lives and our communities. And, whether it is how housing or lack of access to affordable housing has impacted you, has impacted your neighbors, a family member, or the people that you serve through your programs. Of course, please feel free to bring informational materials about your organization. It is a little bit different in a virtual setting. It's not like we can leave, pamphlets and flyers behind in the meetings. But, after every meeting, we are going to be doing thank you notes with everybody in the meeting copied on that email. So you can most certainly email information to who the staffer or the representative that we are meeting with. We are going to have an individual meeting planning session Monday, March 21st at 4 o'clock. So everybody, all 100 of you will be invited to this meeting. And then what we'll do is we'll break out into breakout rooms in which your Housing Alliance meeting leader will then go over sort of the plan and the flow. Meetings can vary depending on the representative. We have some folks coming from rural parts of the state, and those meetings are going to be a little bit smaller and more intimate. And then we have larger meetings, like Hadar mentioned earlier with Representative Evans, that's going to have a larger group of people. So we are going to have to come up with some plans about how, who's going to be able to speak in case not everybody gets a chance to speak. Also, please remember that you do have to register separately to attend Capitol Hill Day. So simply signing up for this webinar today does not include you in the Capitol Hill Day registration. So if you haven't done so already, please be sure to register. We will send out that registration link again with all the follow-up materials from today's presentation. And that registration will close at the end of the day on the 18th. This is just to allow our team enough time to really get good outreach out to the offices and get something scheduled. And then starting about a week in advance of Capitol Hill Day, we're going to be sending out calendar invites with your specific meeting and the Zoom link and, you know, all the information that we have about the meeting. Will you be meeting with the representative? Will you be meeting with a staffer? Will you be meeting with both? And any other sort of relevant information that we think will be helpful for you all to know. So that's our rundown of the day of what we all are doing to help set you up to have a really good positive experience in activating your political agency and speaking your truth to power. And so with that, I want to open it up to Q&A. So our first question is how is access to housing vouchers included in the priorities? I'm hoping that you can, Ms. Miller, if you could please provide a little bit of clarification around what you mean by access. Are you talking about how access to vouchers in the budget? Is there
If we're talking about housing vouchers generally, I mean, there was quite a bit of funding for housing vouchers in the original Build Back Better bill. So we're hoping that the reconciliation bill is going to include lots of funding for vouchers. You know, but if you mean something else by access to, I guess I'm not sure what you might mean by that, but you know, but certainly we are going to ask for funding for vouchers in the reconciliation bill.
Great. And then we also had somebody ask, how are we prioritizing speakers with lived experience? So we are definitely doing some direct outreach through our own Listening Act for Health and Housing initiative. We've been meeting with community members all across the state and Pennsylvania to really hear from folks and help work with them to, you know, activate their voice and encourage them to participate in this event. Also, I think what we have done historically with these meetings in the past is that if we do have speakers with lived experience that do want to speak up during these meetings, we prioritize them to speak first so they actually have a chance to talk about it. Oftentimes, that's kind of how I like to structure the meetings, you know. People who are closest to the need, are experiencing the need, the frontline workers, I really like to give them a chance to speak first in the meeting and to go up to, you know, the executive directors and executive leadership of organizations. But, you know, if you are registered and you want to bring some folks from your programs that you're working with in your community to participate in these meetings, please let us know right away so that we can, of course, make sure that we structure the meeting to make space for their voice. And we're also available to provide any additional support in meeting preparation. Can we look into help with budding up with fellow advocates with similar experiences? Tax credit programs don't work in rural areas because infrastructure doesn't support multifamily. So putting Monroe County in a session that focuses on that topic is counterproductive. So again, we are organizing these meetings not by topic, but by district. So if
Yeah, so Thomas, you're going to be in you're in Matt Cartwright's district, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's fair. You can bring that up. Tax credit programs don't work well in rural areas. Yeah, infrastructure doesn't support multifamily. Yeah, I totally get that, and that's an issue with the tax credit program. And there's nothing wrong with bringing that up. I'm not entirely sure. That may be something that could be better addressed at the state level, but we can talk about that.
And then would it be appropriate to try and push for a redefinition of homelessness to move away from McKinney-Vento? That's not a priority for the Housing Alliance, and the definition for homelessness was changed in the Hearth Act, and I'm just not sure that there's an avenue that's being pushed for that right now that I'm aware of. You can most certainly raise that issue. This is your meeting and your concern, but that is not a policy priority for the Housing Alliance at this time. We have another question about housing choice vouchers. When new vouchers are issued, can anything be done or advocated for to HUD so that vouchers don't expire after 120 days? Can this be changed? It isn't enough time to find landlords and apartments. It should be double or triple the time. And vouchers are being issued 2 heartbeats per room is an issue too for large families and forcing opposite sex teenagers to share rooms. So I think that there's a lot of, regulatory things that can be addressed to kind of modernize the housing choice voucher program. I'm not sure if that's in the current budget bill. I haven't read through it that deeply, but I think with this new administration, HUD is really looking to hear from communities and is putting pilots out into communities like the emergency housing voucher that is really reducing a lot of those regulatory barriers and giving waivers to housing authorities so that housing choice vouchers are not as challenging to use. But I think it's really, really important to bring up these issues when you are in these meetings. If this is what you're seeing on the ground and this is what you're facing, it's really, really important for folks to know that vouchers work. They're a great program, but we do need a little bit more time to help find those apartments. Any other questions? All right, well, if there isn't any other questions, then I want to thank everyone for taking the time to get on today's call. Again, we're going to have a follow-up where we are going to make plans for the individual meetings to, come up with a good structure and flow. So please put a hold on your calendar for March 21st at 4 o'clock. And we will continue to email you updates. And if anybody needs anything from the Housing Alliance team, you have all of our emails and all of our phone numbers. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any point.
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to reach out. And, Candace, I see your comment there. I'd love to hear about Allegheny County's housing court. We have some great landlord tenant court mediation programs in Reading and in Chester County, and anything that's going on in the state regarding mediation or a special court. Love to hear about it.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a good afternoon.